Hello friends, and welcome to the second part of the series of Hello React. And in this part, we are going to deep dive into React components and props. And also we will be looking at how we can design our app UI using a React UI library called Chakra. So let's start. Components in React lets you divide your user interface code into independent and reusable sections, which can be stored separately in separate files. There is always a top-level component to store all these child components, and in this case, we can see inside our app.js that we are rendering all our components in app.js. So we can call that app is a top-level component, and inside this, we can store all our child components. There are actually two ways you can define components in React. The first one is using class-based, and second one is using functions. And functions recently get added into React, so it's more better and efficient. Let me start our development server using yarn start. Now let's remove this logo. We don't need logo, so we can just remove this line and hit save. As we can see that it says header because we are rendering header.js, which we created in the previous part, header.js. But as you may see that it's constant header. What if we want to change this header into something else from here, from app.js? For that, we have to pass something called props or properties. We can pass properties inside React using like this. Let's say title is equal to, and this could be anything from string, number, booleans, or JSON. Let's say title equal to hello React. If we hit save, we don't see any changes because we are not rendering, we are not fetching props inside our header component. We can extract the properties passed to a component using props, something like this. And if we go here and type in props.title, we hit save, we see that it says hello React because we are passing title with a string hello React, and in the header.js we are rendering props.title. Another way is destructing the parameters like this. Let's say title, and we don't need props dot, just title. If we hit save, it's same like that. Let's change it to hello React, hello friends, and if we hit save, we can see the changes. Now let's create posts.js inside a component, and let's create a function called posts and export it. But before that, we are going to return something. Let's say div posts, and we are going to export it by using export default posts. If we go to content.js, and we can remove this, and if we just render post, we can see something like this, posts. Let's add this class name as content. Let me remove the font family here, just like that. Alright, now let's see how we can render a component multiple times using an array. If we go to posts, and let's say this component accepts a list of posts, or we can call it just posts, and from content.js we are going to pass post as an array. Let's import lorem ipsum, insert a line, array of JSON. Let's say that title this, and let's say content or content lorem ipsum inside a paragraph. Alright, like that. Let's copy it, and if we go to post.js, we can loop through this post because because we are passing a JSON value, an array value containing JSON. So if we go to post.js, we can just render it by looping through like this, posts.map and post, and it's gonna return a div. Let's name the class name is equal to post, and inside this let's add another div, and in this we are going to type post.title. Let's add heading 1 and div post.content. And there you go. You see the output like this. Now let's add stylings. If we go to app.css, let's add post and border 2 pixel solid black. If we hit save, we see something like this. Margin top, let's say 1 em, and padding, let's say 2 em. Not 2 is very much. Let's say 1.5. And what else we can do is add border radius, 2 em, and there we go. We see something like this. And another thing is that props are immutable, which means they cannot be changed. If you are passing value, it cannot be changed. So the component will return the same output when feeding the same data. So let's say if you want to change the output of a component, maybe if you are fetching a data from a server or API, for that we are going to need states, and we'll talk about states in the next part. And as you can see, we are in the app.js, we are rendering content, and inside content we are rendering posts component, which is this one. And in posts component we are accepting props called posts, and then we are looping through the posts and returning a div element with class name post, and we are just rendering the title and the content. And if we go to content.js, we can see that we are passing posts as an array containing JSON data like title and content. And this is the way we pass props to a component in React. Now let's talk about UI design. And as I said earlier, we are going to use a React UI library called Chakra. Let's see how we can set up Chakra UI inside our project. If we go to chakraui.com and click on get started, we see that it requires some installation. If you are using npm, you can just copy this code, or if you're on Yarn, you can use this code. Let's open up our terminal and close the server and just paste the command. Let's wait for the installation to finish. And as you can see, the installation was finished. It didn't take too long. So next, what we are going to do is set up provider. What it basically does is it provides you the styles that requires to run this design, Chakra UI design, to your application. And we have to wrap our whole application in Chakra provider so it can pass its style to each and every components we are using inside our application. So it's very easy. Just copy this Chakra provider inside our app.js file, just paste it, and we can just wrap our app using Chakra inside Chakra provider like this. Alright, there we go. If we hit save and let's start our development server using yarn start. And there we go. Next, what we are going to do is remove this app.css, and if we hit save, we are going to see something like this. Don't worry. If we go to header.js and let's remove this, and we are using box, which is let me show you. If you go to the documentation of Chakra and this box is basically a div element. So we are using box. We can customize it by, let's say if you want to change the background color, we can use this PG to whatever color. If you want to change the width, if you want to change the padding or text color. So this is very easy to style our component. It is also related to Tailwind UI CSS. If you don't know about that, you can Google it, or I will put the link in the description so you can check it out. Let's say we are going to render title in here, and if we hit save, we see something like, we don't see any changes. Let me show you how we can make it look cool. If we hit enter and add a heading, which is also getting imported from Chakra UI/layout, and let's say if we want to render title, and if we hit save, we see something like this. But let's go ahead and customize that to look like a navigation bar you see in most of the sites. So if we add some padding, let's say 4, P means padding, and let's say shadow to empty, and if we hit save, we see something like this. It looks like a top navigation bar. Next, what we are going to do is go to content.js and remove this to box. Replace the div with box, and let's add some stylings. Let's say padding is equal to, let's say 14, and there we go. And if you go to posts, and let's also replace this with box and remove the class. We don't need class because we are not using CSS. And let's add some padding of 4 and border width of 1 pixel and border radius of empty. If we hit save, we can see something like this. And if we use stack, let me show you. If we go to content.js, if we are going to wrap this post component inside our stack, inside the stack component, what it will basically do is that it will add some spacings. As you can see, there we go. You can see little spacings between these two components, because post is basically returning a box element. So you can see this spacing between two elements. Next, what we're going to do is replace heading h1 with heading and div with box again. Oh, sorry, text. Let's use text. And if we hit save, we can see something like this. Let's now go ahead and add some spacing between the heading and the content. We can do that by using either by using margin bottom in the heading or margin top in the text. Let's go with margin bottom in the heading and add 2 like that. Next, what we can do is let's say if we want a thumbnail behind this this content, we are going to use Unsplash, which is free to use images, which provides free to use images. Let's say thumbnails, and we are going to use this one. Let's copy this. Actually, we should use each different thumbnails and different posts. We can just pass in here. Let's say thumbnail and add a URL of this image. Let's in the first one. You can use whatever you want. Sorry, this is not the image URL. Image URL is copy image address and paste in like this. It will be a long, lengthy one, so don't worry about that. And another one, we are going to use this one, copy image address, or and if we hit save, we don't see any changes. No changes. Now let's add flexbox. If you don't know what flexbox, you can Google it. And let's add an image here. And src will be post.thumbnail. And if we hit save, we see something like this. Very cool. Now let's add some width of maybe 24. I don't know. Let's see what it will look like. No, that looks ugly. 48. Let's increase to 52. And let's add 64. This looks better. Now let's add some border radius, so it will look more cool, edgy. And there we go. Let's add a shadow to our flexbox. Shadow empty. If we hit save, we can see some shadows right there. Alright. It's very easy to create these kinds of UI using Chakra. So I love using Chakra, and I have been using in my recent projects, and I love using it. I'll also suggest you to look to their documentation to understand more about Chakra UI. Finally, let's modify our footer, because this guy over here is not getting any styles. Let's change it to box and remove the class and add center to align everything in the center. And in here we are going to type text footer. I'll say hello React 2021, and there we go. And there we go. We just learn about components, props, and using UI library inside React. And in the next part, we are going to talk about hooks and states. So stay tuned. Make sure to thumbs up and leave a comment below. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Until then, take care. Bye.